All right, it is week 5. We are finally getting into a lot more in-conference play. Big Ten, Mountain West, PAC. We're going to start with the Big Ten. If you're new to the channel, we pick every Big Ten game. We pick every Mountain West game. We also pick the Beavs, the Cougs, and the Seminoles. Yep. Steve's going to start with the Big Ten and the Seminoles. Yep. We're going to go to me with the Mountain West and the PAC picks, so the Beavs are off. So I only have to pick the Cougs, and the Cougs are playing the Mountain West. So it's really easy for me this week. So, hey, with that, let's get to our picks. Steve, I know you've got some locks. You know I've got some locks. We've been doing really well on our locks. Let's make our viewers some money. Go for it.
We're coming out of the gate hot and heavy right away. Washington traveling across the country to Rutgers. I'm taking Rutgers to cover the 2.5 points, and I'm making that this week's first Big Mountain ice cold lock.
Is this maybe the second or third week in a row you've just come out hot? You're throwing locks like they're hot.
Boom.
I love it. You know, I got to get some dollar bills, make it rain over here. All right, I love it. Okay, so why are we locking this game?
You know, I've been high on Rutgers all year, and this is a rebuilding year for Washington, and Jed Fish, he's doing a great job there. You know, I just think, so the line, it's kind of 2.5. It's almost close to a pick 'em. Yeah. But here's the thing. Rutgers, they're doing everything that we wanted to see them do. They're at home. Washington has to travel all the way across the country. There's not a huge home field advantage in Piscataway. Yeah. I'm hoping, I'd love to see a big crowd for this game with the opportunity they have. But even without a big home field crowd and noise advantage, still traveling all the way across the country, I think Rutgers is a slightly better team. Yeah. I like them to win this. Obviously, I would like them to win it straight up, but I like them to win this by about a touchdown. So for me, it was pretty easy to lock in Rutgers at -2.5.
I agree with you. Under the field goal there, the intangibles here are on Rutgers' side at the very least. And usually when you see lines around 3, it's a pick 'em game for them, and they're giving the 3 points to the home team. So they think this is a pick 'em team or pick 'em game. And I'm with you. I think Rutgers is the better team anyway. So, hey, it's a pick 'em game for them, and you're making it a lock. I love it. We've done well on Rutgers so far this year. Let's keep that train going, Steve.
Yeah. So next game, Maryland at Indiana, traveling to Bloomington, and I'm taking Indiana to cover the 6.5 points as another Big Mountain ice cold lock. I think Indiana is notoriously underrated this year. I've said it from the very beginning. Yeah. They're in the offseason, their over-under was 2.5, which was at one point, was absolutely crazy. I said before the season even started, Kurt Cignetti is going to run wild in the Big Ten. He's a mad scientist. He's put together basically a G5 all-star team to come in and play, what I think is kind of an easy Big Ten schedule. They haven't played a lot of really tough teams. They did get a Big Ten win already against UCLA. Yeah. They're hosting Maryland, and in Maryland they're fine. They're doing okay, but they're not quite the team that they were last year. So I like Indiana by at least a touchdown. Honestly, by double digits, maybe closer to 2 touchdowns. So it was very easy for me to lock. Curtis Rourke, I think is maybe performing as the best quarterback in the Big Ten. There might be some guys that have a little more arm talent than him or whatever, but he is a master of this offense. He's doing everything right. I love this offense, the way they run the ball, the way they pass the ball. Defenses just can't figure out what to do. And, maybe Indiana's weakness is their defense a little bit, but Maryland just does not have the talent to really challenge that.
Right, I understand. And, our friend Steven's on the chat here. He's a huge Curtis Rourke fan. He's been telling everyone how great he is. And at the same time, I'm with you. I mean, it's 6.5 under the touchdown here. There's just no, yes, Indiana's defense maybe not super strong, but Maryland does not have the offense to keep up with the Indiana offense. It's just, I'm with you. It's not there. You're 2 locks in a row here, Steve. Yep. I was supposed to be taking it easy, but you're throwing out all these locks. You're getting me excited. So you ready to go to number 3?
I got some more for you.
Oh,
so
crud.
The next game, Nebraska traveling to Purdue. I'm going to go ahead and take Nebraska to cover the 10.5 as my 3rd consecutive Big Mountain ice cold lock.
I can't handle it, Steve.
Well, okay, so let's start with this. Nebraska, I think, is just a much better team. Yeah. Yes, they're coming off that disappointing loss when they were hosting Illinois. They're still a good team. They still do pretty much everything right. The second half of that game, they got a little conservative, and I think we saw the inexperience of Dylan Raiola. He had a chance to win the game. He didn't make the play against a veteran quarterback, which Illinois was probably a little bit better than we all thought, and really those teams were pretty close talent-wise.
Yes.
And Altmaier, the experienced veteran quarterback, he made the difference. He made the plays in the second half when he had to. And with two teams who are very close in talent and close in level and play, we're not going to see that this week. Purdue is just not a good team this year, unfortunately. Nebraska is just a much better team. I like Nebraska to win this by 2 touchdowns. I think they're going to be pissed off after losing that game to Illinois. They're going to want to come in and take that out on Nebraska. So I feel great about them. I think they'll win at least by 2 touchdowns, so I feel great about them covering the 10.5.
Okay, all right. Well, man, Steve, you're 3 in a row, and I don't know what to say, and I think you got more coming. But I just want to remind everybody, make sure you're giving this one a like. We never do that, but make sure you give us a like on this if you don't mind. We like to see likes because that's people like us.
Absolutely.
All right, it helps me feel good about myself.
Yes.
All right, let's go to pick 4 in the Big Ten.
So this one's going to be a little different. So we have Minnesota traveling to Michigan. Michigan's coming off the big win, and so I am going to take them to cover that 9.5.
Okay.
However, I'm not locking this one. Really just because for 2 reasons. If it was under a touchdown, I feel very confident Michigan's going to win this game. And if the line was under a touchdown, I'd probably go with it. We didn't really see much out of Michigan's offense against USC, except for, half of their yards were on 3 runs that they were able to break open. But their quarterback, I think, was 6 of 14 for 30 yards, Alex Orji. They could win this game by they could not throw a forward pass. Even if they do not complete a forward pass, they could win this game. But I don't see them putting up a ton of points. Minnesota, just not a great team. But they do some things. They're conservative. I think they'll protect the ball. So I like Michigan to win this. I don't know if they're going to win it by double digits. And so that's why I'm taking them to cover the 9.5, but I'm not confident enough to lock it.
Okay, I get it. Because honestly, Minnesota here, as of recent, has looked pretty good. Especially, pretty good. Maybe it's the eye of the beholder there. But they surprised me versus Nevada, and I know it's Nevada. We're talking Michigan versus Nevada, but they really surprised me versus Nevada after the start that Nevada had. Not so much that they won the game, but they pretty much dominated Nevada. So we'll see here, and I get it. Michigan coming off a huge game. You don't know what kind of letdown they may have. It is still at home here, so the cover seems to make sense, but I understand at least not locking the game.
I could see this as a 13-6 game, just a low-scoring game. I feel incredibly confident Michigan's going to win, but just not maybe in those double-digit point range.
Gotcha. Okay.
So my next one, I have Wisconsin going across the country, traveling to LA to the Coliseum to face USC, and I am taking USC to cover 15.5 points as another Big Mountain ice cold lock. Boom.
Steve, that's 4 out of 5.
It is.
You're loving the lines in this week.
I'm feeling great about these matchups. And here's the thing, okay?
I've been waiting for it.
Wisconsin this year, I've been down on them all year. They're not a terrible team, but they just don't do anything well.
No.
Okay, there's nothing that they really do well. USC has a lot more talent than them. They're going across the country. They already had that tough game against Alabama early in the season. And USC, I think, is going to come in. They just played that tough game against Michigan, where honestly, I think they showed a lot in their offense going against one of the better defenses in the country. Wisconsin has nothing like that on defense, nothing like a Will Johnson, nothing like that defensive line that Michigan has. For Wisconsin to then come across the country, I think USC is going to take out some frustrations. They're going to want to show they're licking their wounds. They feel like they could have won that Michigan game, maybe should have won that Michigan game.
Right.
And they want to take it out on somebody, and it's going to be poor Wisconsin, who just does not have the talent level as them. So I like USC to win by 20-plus points.
I was just going to say, you got to be thinking 20-plus.
Just when you combine the talent differential, I think USC is going to be very motivated. And then again, that cross-country travel, we haven't really gotten to see yet. USC just traveled across to Michigan. We're going to see a lot more of that this year.
Yeah.
The first game we talked about Washington traveling all the way to Rutgers. And so this is, traveling across the country, this is like a bowl game, except for bowl games, they go 2 weeks in advance or whatever to get acclimated. This, they're just doing a normal game week, a normal school week. So for all those reasons, I love USC to win by 20 plus points and cover the 15 and a half.
Yeah, and I agree. And we got commenters here agreeing with you. USC lock it down. They're giving us the lock symbols and the ice cold symbols and all that kind of stuff. And I do want to back up real quick because our good friend David Jurgensen's on.
Yes.
I know he can't always join us, and we have a lot of good friends. I mean, all of our mainstays are here tonight. The dwellers have come out in full force. We've got everybody. So welcome, guys. I won't name you all because there's a ton of you here. Squeeze money, Clint. We got them all. But I do want to ask about David Jurgensen's question and go back just to 2 picks here. I think. Yeah. Luke Fickell, gone by 26. Steve, I know you've talked about him before. What do you think? Where are we at right here?
So here's the thing: I think Luke Fickell is a good football coach. He did a good job at Cincinnati. And I expected him to do well at Wisconsin. Well, they haven't brought in the talent, which he's more known as a talent developer.
Right.
But I honestly think their biggest problems have been their coordinators, and their coordinators just not working out. This offense, was supposed to be exciting. It was supposed to be different than what Wisconsin had done in the past, and it's been none of that. Yeah. They're just kind of bad on both sides of the ball. I could definitely see him being gone. I picked them to only win, I think, 4 or 5 games this year. I think they're on track for a rough season. They have another rough season next year probably in hand because I don't see them bringing in that talent unless they make a home run hire on a coordinator. It may be rough, and it may just show you. The difference where he was at in Cincinnati and the level of competition. Sometimes it's tough to go up to the Big Ten level. We've seen, and some people say, okay, you got to give people time, you got to give people patience. Well, look what Kurt Cignetti has done going into Indiana and has turned that around, very quickly, right away, using the transfer portal, and honestly, just schematically in coaching.
Yeah.
So it can be done, and so far, Fickell has shown that he just can't do it in Wisconsin.
Okay. All right. So we are down to pick 6 here for the Big Ten, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So Ohio State traveling to Michigan State. I'm going to go ahead and take the Michigan State plus the 23.5.
Oh, wow.
Only because just where the line is. Ohio State, fantastic team. They've done everything they need to do. But honestly, I've seen them this year. I don't think Ohio State is fully unleashed everything they have.
Okay.
They haven't used the quarterback run very much this year, which I thought they would. They're just kind of coasting through. They're not putting their foot on the gas. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I think they're being smart.
Sure.
I think they're playing this season a lot like Michigan played last season.
Yeah.
So this is not a knock on Ohio State at all. I think they could beat Michigan State again by 50 if they wanted to.
Okay.
But I see them just doing enough to win, not really feeling like they need to unlock everything and use all their toolbox. And Michigan State, I think, will just kind of hang around. Their quarterback, I always forget his name. Aiden Childs. Yeah, the transfer from Oregon State. And I know JEH is painful for him, but he's a good, solid quarterback. I think he'll make some plays. They'll score some points, and JEH saying go Buckeyes. I get the sentiment, and Ohio State's not going to have any trouble winning this game. They're going to win this game.
Right.
But with that point spread, I think Ohio State takes their foot off the gas. Michigan State is trying to show, hey, we belong. We have a good future in this league. And I think they keep the points within the spread.
Okay. All right. Well, that's your first underdog that you're taking. You're taking points on Michigan State. So we got a couple more left. We'll see if you have any more underdogs here, Steve.
Yeah. So my next one here, Illinois at Penn State. The line is 17.5, and I'm taking Penn State to cover the 17.5. This is one that I really struggled with. If the line was like I was thinking 12.5 to 13.5.
Okay.
Right on either side of 13 for the line. And if that's the case, honestly, especially at 12.5, I probably would have locked it. 17.5 gave me a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. So I've just kind of been looking at the Penn State team this week, seeing how they're I've been following the press conferences, the coach, what he's saying, how they're practicing, the practice reports, and those kind of things so far.
Yeah.
And honestly, so this is not the official whiteout game. However, the coach James Franklin called for whiteout energy. The fans are up for it. It's a night game at 7:30. I went back and looked because there's been some early season whiteouts the last few years. Minnesota, Iowa, Auburn, those home games, and really Penn State took it up a notch in those games, especially when the Minnesota and Iowa games, they easily blew those lines out. And I think that the team, the coaches, the fans, everybody's basically going to treat this, even though it's not an official whiteout, like it's a whiteout. You have an Iowa team, a very solid Iowa team coming in. Luke Altmaier. Illinois team, sorry. Okay. I was thinking about the Iowa whiteout from a couple years ago, where they got their butt kicking that they had.
You called that one too.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, the last team to come in and kind of embarrass Penn State at home was Illinois a few years back, that 9 overtime game.
Yes, that was ugly.
It was. So
not to relive it, but that was ugly.
Yeah, and David Jorgensen says Illinois has taken out 2 ranked teams. I totally get it. We saw Luke Altmaier last year. He is a much improved quarterback last year. Penn State's strength, their team, is their secondary, their pass rush, and their secondary. And that combination caused him a lot of problems last year.
Yeah.
He is a better player this year. But I just see Penn State cranking it up to that next level notch and covering that 17.5. I'm not quite confident enough to lock it. But I do I'm going to put my money on this, Penn State to cover the 17.5.
Okay. All right. When I saw that line come out, and this is the line that came out, I think, on Sunday.
Yes.
So it has not moved.
No.
I looked at that and went, that's going to be a tough line for Steve. I knew it. I didn't know which way you were going to go with it. I didn't even know if it might move a little bit, but I went, man, that is a tough line there. So I wish you luck. As everybody knows, I believe you with everything you do with Penn State. Yeah. You're not 100%. Nobody ever is, but you're pretty damn good when it comes to Penn State.
About 85, 90%.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you're exactly right. When I saw that line, I was like, "Oh, I hate that line." And when you have that feeling, that generally means it's a fair line.
That's the fairest line. Honestly, I looked at your lines this week, and I am not surprised that so far you have, was it 4 locks?
Yeah.
Because early lines, I was jumping. I texted you Sunday night. I went, look at this line. Rutgers. Look at this line. Look at this Nebraska. The teams you've been on. And I went, they're getting great lines. And it was the first 3 you did here. Rutgers, Indiana, Nebraska, USC as well. I'm going, these lines are amazing. And I already got my money on them on Sunday. They've moved a little bit, but they really haven't moved that much. Rutgers hasn't moved at all. Right. I love them at 2.5.
And if you notice, all 3 or 4 of those teams were teams that Vegas was kind of down on to start the season.
Yes.
And I don't know if they've, especially at teams like Rutgers and Indiana, I don't know if Vegas has really calibrated to, how well they've played. So
yeah, good point. Good point.
Moving on, my next game, Oregon at UCLA. I'm taking Oregon to cover the 25.5. I'm probably making JEH mad again. Sorry, buddy. But Oregon just they're a very good team. They're a very solid team, talent all over, and UCLA is not. UCLA is the opposite. It's a total rebuilding mode. We've seen this year where they've really struggled. And Oregon at the beginning of the season, they kind of struggled. They had some injuries on the offensive line. They were trying to get some things together, but they've really put things together. I think that Boise game was great for them, playing a really good, solid opponent.
Yeah, kind of woke them up a little bit.
Woke them up, and then they've continued that momentum against Oregon State, against our beloved Beavs, which again, I know JEH is hurting his heart there. But I think they're going to continue to do that. I think they're going to put their foot on the gas and they're going to want to make a statement, continue to make that statement. Oregon wants to show, hey, we're in the Big Ten. We're right there with the, Michigan, Ohio State, all those power players.
Yeah.
So I don't see them taking their foot off the gas at all. And so I have them covering the 25.5. I'm not locking it just because it's such a big line.
Yeah.
Because they could win by 19, 20, 21. But I'm taking Oregon to cover the 25.5.
Okay. All right. So we've got FTD. He told us what that means. I'm not going to say it.
Yes. F the Ducks.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I can say F the Ducks.
Yeah.
I can say whatever the hell I want to say.
Exactly.
But anyway. Dumpster fire from UCLA, according to Stephen Vitt.
Yeah. And
Are we at dumpster fire status?
I mean, they've been a dumpster fire since the press conference to start the season off Big 10 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you have it. All right.
Yeah.
All right, you got one left, Steve. So we're done with the Big 10.
Yes.
You're bringing on the stepchild.
Yes.
Or the maybe someday be a member.
Yes.
Of the Big 10, FSU. So I saw this line and I went, ooh, I don't know what he's going to do here. I actually would have picked this game as an other game, but I'm not going to do it because you're picking it. So go for it.
Last week, I think you were pretty shocked at my pick. I went back with the Seminoles last week.
I was very surprised, but hey, you did it right.
Yeah.
You picked the switch, man.
And that's the thing is Florida State is they are a better team than Cal. I think they're a better team than SMU. They were just so out of sorts to begin the season. I don't think the worm has fully turned. Maybe it stopped moving one way so far and it's like trying to turn around, and maybe that's just enough.
I think the ship has stopped taking on water,
yes,
but they're still getting the damn water out of the ship.
Yeah, so obviously I'm taking Florida State to cover the 5.5 at SMU. Again, just because I think they're the better team. I think maybe they've slowed the bleeding. We're trying to use up all these different euphemisms, but they've slowed the bleeding, and I think they're just a better team. Again, I think the coaching staff is more in a position right now. They know at this point, like, okay, we're not national championship contenders, most likely.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to just win games, put on a positive front, and look good so that we can keep our recruits and build positive momentum for next year? Although in reality they're still alive for the ACC, but that's another conversation. But I think they're more willing to make those changes if they need to at quarterback and other positions. I think they're the better team, so I'm pretty confident going with FSU to cover the 5.5 at SMU. Okay, well, there you have it. Steve with 9 picks, 4 of them locks, and Steve's been hot on his locks. Yep.
And I'll be honest, I love all your locks. I love all the lines when I saw them at first up. Still love them. I think at the very least, well, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to jinx you.
Okay.
I love your locks. I'll leave it at that. Hey, I want to, before I get into my picks here, I've got 7, and our buddy Chris always likes the over-unders, and I'm going to give him 2 over-unders tonight. I've done 1 the past 2 weeks, and I hit both of them on my over-unders, and so now I'm getting jiggy with it. I'm going to do 2 over-under
picks. I love it.
Yeah. But I do want to give a shout-out. Clint Moses here gave me a shout-out and said I did a nice job as a guest caller on the 365 Sports live show today. Thanks, Clint. I'm glad you either caught it live or caught it after the fact. That came together very late in the day. It was very kind of them to have me on. We were talking Mountain West and PAC, and I gave my kind of 2 cents on where I think things are at right now. John Wilner was on before me.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty awesome.
When you're talking about experts in West Coast football, the PAC, Mountain West, we got John Wilner and we got JY. I mean,
I don't know about that. I'm not there yet, but I appreciate those guys. You can check out their channel, and if you want to hear me bloviate for about 12 minutes about the Mountain West. All right. Ready for the Mountain West picks?
I'm ready. I'm excited.
I'm going to do things a little differently today. I usually go in order of event, right? So I pick the early games and I wait for the late games. I'm not going to do that because I'm saving the best 2 games for last. Because we've got 2 phenomenal games in the Mountain West. We've got the Boise State, Washington State game. That's at Boise. And we also have the Fresno State, UNLV game at UNLV, and we're going to get to Sluka, UNLV, crazy times happening. Yeah. We're going to talk Sluka after I do my picks, and then we are going to get to, I saw some people asking, are we going to talk realignment and all that kind of jazz? Yes, we 100% will. We'll do that at the end of our live episode here, but we're on picks. Let's keep going on picks. So, my first one here, San Diego State traveling to Central Michigan. The line's a 2.5 line. It's a coin flip. I'm going to take Central Michigan here, giving the 2.5. This one was tough for me. I don't really like the line. It's a 50-50. I get why it's 2.5. Again, as I said to your game, the 2.5, it's a coin flip, and they're giving their home team the benefit of the benefit of the doubt, and they're making them the favorite at 2.5. That's what they're doing here. So remember, CMU only lost to Illinois 30-9.
Yep.
But they've also had some pretty bad games besides that. So they're a little bit of a hot and cold. They're like the Hawaii. What do you call them? Jekyll and Hyde. A little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde here for them. But you would think when they have a team coming from the West Coast that is beatable, they're going to be up for that game. You would think, right? In terms of the average offense, CMU is gaining 424 yards a game, and it's pretty 50-50. They have an even offense, and their QB is, I think it's Labas, is 60%. That's what you want in a quarterback. He has 6 touchdowns, but he has 6 interceptions. Their running back is by committee, which is great. They really spread the ball out with receivers and running backs. I mean, they have all kinds of different weapons. So it's not like, hey, I shut down this guy, we'll be fine. But San Diego State's defense is very good. I mean, their D has been giving up only 357 points a game, and it's pretty 50-50 there. We saw how well they played defensively against the Beavs. They did a really nice job against the Beavs on defense, not so much on offense. So let's talk about the offense. San Diego State averaging just over 300 yards a game here. I think it'll be a struggle. CMU's D is averaging 351 yards a game. So I'm looking at this going, whose offense do I think maybe is just a little bit better? Like a touchdown better. Yeah. I'm going to go CMU, but honestly, San Diego State could win this game straight up too. So not confident in this, but we're committed to picking every game. Thus, I'm picking the game.
Like you said, it's basically a coin flip. Both teams that they have some good things, they have some bad things. They've struggled this year at different times. I think that travel. I mean, San Diego State coming all the way across the country to Michigan. I think you have to factor that in. So I like your pick.
And so far, this Aztec Fast hasn't been very fast. Mm-hmm. That could change at the drop of a hat, right? You don't know, but I'm not convinced that they're quite at Aztec Fast. I think they're maybe an Aztec neutral right now. All right, let's get to my second pick. This is Steve's favorite game of the year. New Mexico versus New Mexico State. He knew where I was going.
Oh, yeah, as soon as you said that.
The line is 9.5. I am taking the favorites here with the Lobos, minus 9.5. The Lobos are allowing 510 yards a game on defense. Mm-hmm. Not good.
No.
They're gaining, though, 431 yards on offense. That's second in the Mountain West. Second in the Mountain West. Of course, we know Boise and how good they are, but Fresno offense is very, very good. There's offenses putting up numbers. San Jose State's offense is very, very good. So New Mexico's second in the Mountain West in average yards per game. Dampier, dual threat, making some, kind of inexperienced mistakes, but the kid can make it happen. And their running back, Sanders, the kid that I picked early on as my MVP non-quarterback for this team, he's making it happen. He's at 4.6 yards per carry. New Mexico is 3-1 against the spread. That one was against Fresno. And I think I'm 3-1 picking the Lobos so far this year. New Mexico State is 1-3 against the spread. And I'll remind you, New Mexico State 2 weeks ago got just bludgeoned by the Bulldogs 48-0. Well, the Lobos did a little better against that. So if you're looking at a similar opponent, the Lobos handled that game way better than the Aggies, right? The New Mexico State.
Yeah,
Aggies. And so I got to take 9.5's a little high. But I just like the offense side of the ball here for New Mexico. They're going to put up points in this game. As long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot with, 17 penalties that they had last week, they should cover this spread. So that's my take on Steve's favorite game of the whole season.
I saw the Fresno game. I mean, it was a good part of that game. And the Lobos held their own. They were very respectable, played a solid game. I think they're a better team, and I like the pick.
New Mexico State, though, Steve, a team that I have in my top 3 as being a Mountain West Conference addition. We'll get to that later. People have heard me say that before.
Yes.
I bang the same drum, and boy, let me tell you, I'm banging it daily these days.
Yep.
All right, you might be surprised by my next pick.
Okay.
I remember what I said on our recap. What did I say about the Pokes? What am I doing with the Pokes, Steve?
You're gonna have a more positive attitude.
I'm bringing them up from the doldrums.
Yep.
I'm pulling them out of hell.
Uh-huh.
So here we go. Wyoming playing Air Force in Wyoming, and they're getting 3.5 points. I'm gonna take, Steve, the Pokes. I know it's surprising everybody right now. I'm taking the Pokes, getting 3.5 points. Here's why. This will be a low-scoring game. These offenses will struggle to score. If you're going to give me the Pokes in a low-scoring game at Laramie, getting 3.5 points, I will take the field goal and win this bet, hopefully on Saturday. But here's the deal. So, Air Force, they're averaging 217 yards on offense per game. The Pokes, 212 yards per offense per game. So these guys, they're getting 200 yards a game on either side of the ball. 3-and-out city. We'll see what happens. Both sitting, kind of at the bottom of they're both at the bottom of the Mountain West in terms of offense. Defense, what have they allowed? Air Force has allowed 335 yards per game, which, you say, oh, that's average. Air Force hangs their hat on defense. Yeah. Okay, now they did play San Jose State, and their defense held up pretty well against San Jose State. We've seen what they can do in terms of offensive threats. WyoH has given up 429 yards on defense. But let me tell you here, Air Force, when you look at that score versus San Jose State, it was 17-7, and you go, how is it that freaking close? Because it should never be that close. It was close because the defense was able to hold back San Jose State for the most part. The only reason they scored at all was because there was an interception turnover in the red zone in their defense in San Jose State's defensive 20. So they turned it over in the Air Force's red zone, and they score a touchdown on it. So it's almost a gimme, if you will, touchdown. There were no drives in that game for Air Force over 30 yards. Not plays, drives in the entire game. And San Jose State defense ain't great. They're not bad, but they ain't great. Air Force can't score. The Pokes can't score. I'm hopeful, and you should never hope when you're betting, but I'm hopeful there's enough of a turnaround here for the Pokes offense. They can get enough field goals to win this game, something silly like 16-13.
Ooh.
And because I think it's going to be 16-13, my next pick is the under. What are we doing? Under, what are we doing? 40 or 34.5. Under 34.5. I couldn't believe it was that high.
Yeah.
I'm like, 34.5? That's cray-cray.
And you're not locking that under?
I'm not locking the under, but it's a pick under.
Okay.
So what do you got to say about that game?
Two teams that can't do a damn thing on offense.
Nope.
I agree with you. It's in Wyo. I think that kind of gives them the advantage. I'd really be interested to see if really my main interest in this game is, does Wyoming do anything different on offense?
Yes.
Again,
we shouldn't hope, but I hope they're going to.
I hope they're going to, but I really want to see that. I think was it Squeeze Money said he thinks that maybe Air Force wins 2-0 in OT. I want to see that. In the Nebraska-Illinois game, Nebraska in overtime lost 40 yards. And they were almost back to past midfield. So I want to see that situation, how that would play out, where Air Force would get a safety in overtime. That'd be very interesting. But again, two teams can't do a damn thing on offense. We'll see how it goes. I think that under. I would go way, way under. I could see this game being 6-3, 9-3, something like that.
So you think it's a lock?
Oh, yeah. Twice. Okay. Lock over twice.
Okay, well, we're
double
not
lock.
It's not. So we really like the under here on the Big Mountain, but that's not one of my locks. I did want to say I did see a commenter, and I don't remember what it was, but I want to say since we're talking about Wyoming, really quick.
Yeah.
Whaley took the red shirt. I don't know if you saw that. Harrison Whaley,
so
star running back. He can play 4 games.
Okay.
So he'll, this will be game 5. He's not playing.
Okay.
And maybe he won't play at all. I don't know, but you can play 4 games. We'll get to the whole red shirt 4-game thing with our friend Sluka with UNLV as well. But I want to just mention Whaley now has taken the red shirt year.
Makes sense.
He's only able to play in 4 games. I also want to say run Scott. They better run Sam Scott in this game. Darn it.
For a running back, because they have such a short shelf life, you don't want to get too many carries. I think it makes a lot of sense because Wyoming, they just don't have a lot of goals that they can achieve at this point this year.
Yes.
Unfortunately. So it makes a ton of sense. And I would expect that he wouldn't play at all. Even like you said, he could play those 4 games, but I would expect he wouldn't, just to save the wear and tear in the body, come back next year and go for it again.
And I saw it's a potential one of those. I'm red shirt. I mean, they're 0-4.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're out of conference, right? They could go 7-0 in which they're not going to, but they could. And at that point, he pulls his red shirt and maybe does play. I'm going to wait and see if we can win a game or see what happens.
Right.
And he may have done it, so he can transfer the heck out of Wyoming.
That's
the
true.
way they're playing and the way the coaches. I mean, I don't want to. Who freaking knows? All right, we're going to my 5th pick. We've got people waiting for this pick. I've seen people chatting about it before. Washington State, Boise State, and yes, I'm taking Boise State minus 7.5. I'm confident that Boise can outscore Wazoo. I'm confident that Boise can outscore Wazoo by more than 8 points. I'm also doing we've done a preview of this show. Again, just JY.
Yep.
Did a preview of the show. I invited on Sean Goodwin, I believe it is. Goodwin. He's with the Idaho Statesman. He replaced Ron Counts, who was there. We had Ron on here for a preview. Sean has come on. I'm going to do a preview of this game. We'll post it tomorrow. Wazoo versus Boise State. So I won't talk about it a ton right here. You can hear everything we have to say on that 20-minute-ish segment tomorrow. But I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, Steve. A lot of points. Mateer versus Madden. Madden. Madsen. What am I saying? Madsen.
Yep.
Madsen. I know that. I'm sorry, Boise fans. Madsen. You know what it is?
You're down halfway.
It's the damn apple juice. Yep. But anyway, I think these are two very good quarterbacks. You saw what Mateer was able to do versus San Jose State. Yep. Oh my gosh. He, as I said in our recap, he won that game for them. Without Mateer, Wazoo does not win that game. And for Boise, I mean, San Jose State's, they're kind of they're a one-trick pony in terms of a pass offense and not much rush offense. Boise can do both. Yeah. Obviously, we've got Genty for Heisman. We got him. You got Madsen, and Madsen threw some beautiful throws last week. I know they were paying Portland State, but it was good one-on-one coverage, and he's dropping the ball in beautifully. Lots of confidence. I also will say, remember what the Boise State defensive front did to Oregon. They got in the backfield. I think they had 4 sacks just in the first half. Let's look at what San Jose State's defensive front did against Washington State. The Washington State offensive line is the weakness, absolutely. So, and the weakness of the Boise State is the secondary. So if that front for Boise can get to Mateer, I think it could be a long-ish day for Wazoo. I know they're 4-0. I know we have Wazoo fans. I like Boise. I like them so much, Steve. Ice cold lock. I saved it to the end. They didn't think it was coming, but I'm locking the Broncos. This is a huge game for them, and I just like them to roll here. I really do.
I love your confidence. This is a huge game. I'm not going to be able to see this game, unfortunately. I wish I could. I'm going to be at the Penn State game, and it's a night game, and all that stuff. But huge game. Honestly, this is one of the biggest games of the year out in the for West Coast football. Both Wazoo and Boise getting lots of national attention.
Yeah.
So the winner of this game, I think, coming out of here is on a very good track for a college football playoff spot. Whether that's a Washington State trying to get an at-large now that Notre Dame had a little stumble, or a Boise who would just be another feather in their cap, another notch on their headboard. And if they can go on and win the Mountain West, this just builds their resume for a college football playoff spot. So huge game, massive game, one of the biggest games of the year. I think Boise is a better all-around team, just complete team. The wild card is Mateer for Washington State. You just never know what that guy's going to do. If they can get to him, if they can rattle him and not allow him to make those just crazy back-breaking game-winning plays, then I like the pick.
Yeah. Well, we shall see.
Yep.
The lock probably surprised some people. I'm going to go to my second over-under here, Steve, and I'm going over 63.5 with another Big Mountain ice-cold lock. I told you I love these offenses. I told you they're going to score a lot of points. I don't see why either team aren't both in the 30s. I mean, we got a 30-30, 30-40 type of thing going on here. They both should score 30 points. So I love the over here. And maybe I should have locked the under with the Wyoming and Air Force. I'm always hesitant to lock the unders.
Yes.
Because crazy things can happen, especially in college football. Oh, they score points sometimes that, like, water.
What do they say? Betting the under's like kissing your sister.
Yeah, and I don't have a sister.
You're right.
So I'd be kissing my brother.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So anyway, there's 2 locks on the Boise Wazoo game. -7.5 for the favorites at home, and also the over 63.5. The last one, massive game, UNLV versus Fresno State. And I'm going to call it the money line here, Steve. I'm taking UNLV on the money line. This line has dropped since the news that just broke. We're going to talk about that next. And, when the line's 1.5 and it's at like 112 and the money line's at 118, just take the daggone money line. Like, I don't need a couple cents or a couple dollars.
Yep.
to lose on a 1 point. So just take the money line here, and it could change too. That's why I'm just like, at this point, I don't know what the hell's going on with UNLV. Just take the money line, and I like UNLV at home, and here's why I like UNLV at home. This is Keene versus the UNLV defense. That's what this is going to be, and I like the UNLV defense. Yeah, they came out kind of weak here looking at versus Kansas. They didn't look great, but my goodness, in the second half, when they wanted to bring the pressure and get to Daniels, guess what? They threw Daniels completely out of his game. He didn't have time. And, I could see the same type of thing happening here for Fresno State with Keene. And I will also say, on the offensive side, we all know the passing numbers against Kansas were abysmal, but they have some great corners. And not a knock on the Fresno defense, but they don't have the corners of the Kansas defense. So I just like UNLV on both sides of the ball, but I am taking the UNLV defense to win this game. Yes, the Sluka issue, the quarterback issue is absolutely an issue, but I don't think that it derails them at all. Odom is a fantastic coach. He has this team playing correctly, and I'm also going to be doing, Steve, a special for this game preview. I'll record it tomorrow, so we won't get it out on Friday. I hate dropping stuff on Fridays because all we guys want to do is go out and drink at the bars. We don't want to be watching JY and Steve talk about the frickin' game. Although I know we got some Tommy Gunn and we got James. We got people that want to hear about this game. It's a hell of a game. But that won't drop until Friday. So we are going to have a UNLV Fresno State preview as well. I'm bringing on a special guest new to our channel for UNLV. Shout out to Bill, that college football guy. He helped me out.
All right.
Get a UNLV Rebel insider. I just spit on you.
Yeah, it's all right.
Insider.
I like the passion.
I'm getting excited because we're getting to the Mountain West.
The passion gets the juices flowing.
I don't know about that. Anyway, that's where I'm at. What do you think about it? I mean, you're a Bulldog guy.
Yeah.
This game, because I have picked preseason, I have picked the Broncos and the Rebels to be in the championship game. And I said in my preseason preview, I have UNLV winning this game. And quite frankly, I'm even more confident today than I was then. But you liked Fresno State being in the Mountain West Championship game, so I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, well, obviously I don't follow the Mountain West as closely as you do, especially UNLV. I didn't know as much about UNLV coming in. Everything you've said about their defense, everything you said in the preseason about UNLV's defense has proven to be completely true. They've been very impressive, and honestly, I watched a good part of that Kansas game, and I would, when you look at the game as a whole, I would classify that as a great showing for UNLV. Yes, in the first half, Jaden Daniels, he broke a couple plays, he ran a few times, whatever, but they made fantastic adjustments. And the Kansas offense was coming off of a year where they were one of the most prolific and most efficient offenses, and UNLV, especially in that second half, once they made some adjustments, they shut them down.
Yeah.
My biggest question coming into this year, and the differentiator between Fresno and UNLV, was I thought the quarterback play. I put a lot of weight. You've put a lot of weight on UNLV's defense, and they've come through.
Right.
I put a lot of weight on Fresno, on Mikey Keene, on the quarterback play, the experience. I think he's the best quarterback in the conference, and I always put a lot of weight on that. So I think it's a great matchup. And so far this season, you were high on Sluka coming in, and he was really fantastic. Maybe not as much with his arm, but really with his legs. Just a great playmaker coming in. So that kind of was changing my mind. Well, now, and I know you're going to talk about this after our picks, now we have this situation with Sluka. So I don't know what to think now. I'm just I'm back to being where I was before, where I was indecisive about UNLV. Not down on UNLV, but indecisive about them. You're still strong on them because of Odom and the defense. And I'm back to being where I just don't know.
It's not a great time to lose Sluka.
No.
Versus one of the biggest games of the year in conference. They get Boise as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm not knocking the games that they've had. The huge win against Kansas. They have Syracuse coming up. So they've got so many. Their schedule is just, it's strong, very strong schedule, and they've handled it well. It is an awful time to lose your starting quarterback, no matter how close your second quarterback is to Sluka. Tommy Gunn, who is a fan of the UNLV Rebels, he says the second QB, he's going to be good. You don't have to worry about it. And Sluka struggled to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And he kind of did. But I'll tell you what, you know what they need to do, Steve? They need to cover the second quarterback in Vaz, just like they covered Sluka in Vaz.
He's slippery.
Oh, he's slippery. They'll be just fine. Just put some Vaz on that boy. And thank you, Bill. Yes, I need to stop spitting. Okay, so those are our picks, everybody. As you know, we do some recaps. So if you're interested to hear some of the games that we highlight, we'll usually do about 3 or 4 Big Ten and Mountain West. We do them at the beginning of the week, try to get them out on Mondays when we can. So we'll get them out here as well.